So in 2005, a movie came out named Hoodwinked. In this family-friendly comedy, we see the tale of Little Red Riding Hood told from 5 different perspectives. Each perspective gives more and more details about what exactly is going on. Each perspective gives more and more details about what's going on. Now, this is actually a really popular cinematic style called Rashomon. The entire idea of Rashomon is that as you change perspectives in characters, you gain new insights and new ideas that come with it. But what if I told you this was going on in the gospel? Welcome to the Matthew Minute, where we take a little bit of time each week to talk about different ideas and concepts throughout the Gospel of Matthew. This week, we're going to be looking at the 3 different perspectives of Matthew 27. In Matthew 27, we read about Jesus' death on the cross, but some scholars believe that the death scene is actually told in 3 different perspectives. First, you have the ironic perspective of the crowd mocking him in verses 37 to 44. Second, you have Jesus' own perspective of what's going on in verses 44 to 50. And finally, you have the perspective of God the Father himself in verses 50 to 54. Now in verses 37 to 44, you have the crowds and authorities all surrounding Jesus, mocking him, claiming, ironically, that he is the King of Israel. They deride Jesus, claiming that God must not delight in his Son because he's not saving him. But we know from Jesus' baptism that God is well pleased with his Son. We know that Jesus submitted to baptism in the place of sinners to die for sinners. And even the thieves on the cross next to him, ironically reviling him, were telling the truth. After that, in verses 45 to 50, we get Jesus' own perspective of what's going on. Jesus speaks, and it's the only time in the Gospel of Matthew when his words are written out explicitly. He quotes Psalm 22, not necessarily in despair, but knowing how this will all turn out. He is perfectly serving the Lord his God, drinking the cup of wrath that's been placed before him that he was talking about in the Garden of Gethsemane. Still being mocked, Jesus lets out a loud cry. And at this point in the story, there is only defeat. Finally, in verses 51 to 54, we hear God's own interpretation and a response of human faith. In this section, we see all sorts of divine acts in response to Jesus' death. The veil in the temple is torn, the earth is shaken, the dead are rising. The temple is to be destroyed in future years, and that veil is torn as a sign of its destruction. The temple that had been corrupted will be destroyed in future years, and the veil is torn as a sign of that. God has made himself known, and the earth is reflecting it. The dead are being raised because of Jesus' conquering of sin and death, and in the midst of all this, one Gentile onlooker realizes the truth. One Gentile onlooker, ironically enough, confesses that Jesus is the Son of God. He does this not because flesh and blood has revealed it to him, but because God himself has showed him. Thanks for watching, and remember, Jesus didn't stay dead. He's risen. Be sure to check out my video on the meaning of the resurrection in Matthew, and if you have any questions, please leave them in the comment box below. Thank you.